Welcome to Hey Dad Podcast. Real dads, tough issues, and a genuine love for a fatherless generation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We're continuing on a discussion we had from last week, and the discussion was men go their own way, or they call it MGTOW. And
who are we, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were famous enough. We don't have to actually say who we are. We just go and start going by
three amigos.
Yeah. I'm Rick Rivera. To my right is Chris Lawler.
Howdy.
To my left is Frank Lamelli.
How you doing, guys?
And our producer Mark is behind the camera back there, but he doesn't like to come before the camera. So.
We're all dads.
We're all dads.
We all care about this fatherless generation.
Yes.
And we all think that there's a lot of information blowing around that could take you down a wrong path. So we're just here to talk about it.
Right.
Your dad can't talk to you about it.
Right.
So we're standing in. We're your spare dads.
Yeah. There you go. So last week we started talking about men go their own way. This is something that bleeped on my radar. I couldn't believe it. It was a thing. And it turns out it's a big thing. And it's really big among younger people. And it's a growing movement. And well, last week we talked about it. I'm going to go over some of the main points of this movement. Now, in fairness to the movement, you have to know there's a spectrum. There's those who believe on the minimal, like they buy into a little bit of it. And then there's guys living in a cave in the hills because they completely 1,000,000% buy into it. And but this is, we're going around probably more the middle of the road of this movement. The first belief is women are a trap. No, go on. There's a lot said in that laughter.
Boy.
Okay,
this is a men's club idea. So these are men getting together and making these decisions about life.
But couldn't help it.
Okay. Being with women is a losing game. Family courts are stacked up against men. Avoid marriage. This is a battle cry. Relationships with a woman. You can have a relationship with a woman, but don't stay with her long enough to where she becomes your common law wife.
What is that break line? Like 7 years?
6 years in California. I'm not sure outside of 7 years. Okay. So
so when they hit that, they're expired.
Yeah.
A little thing pops out on their side, and they're done.
And then here's the thing they say too: men are better off on focusing on themselves. Remember this one, guys, because there's a point to this I really want to bring out later. But they say men are better off focusing on themselves, focusing on their body, their health, their projects, and their hobbies. So men just become self-absorbed, and you can focus. And a lot of these guys are great shape. They're buff. They work out, and they have the cars, and they have the everything.
There's not a lot to hate in that statement, you know. I mean,
it could go either way.
It's what's not being said is where the hate needs to get focused.
Yeah.
But the idea of taking care of yourself,
there's nothing
take care of things that are meaningful to you.
Exactly.
What guy's not going to bite on that worm?
Yep.
Definitely.
That's like I always say, the most dangerous lies have a vein of truth.
Yeah.
So some of these things we're touching on, we're kind of like, maybe, you know?
Yeah.
The vein of truth. But again, it's like you have a big, beautiful bottle of wine, you put a few drops of urine in, and it's all gone. Urine's the lie, you know? So that's why you have to use discretion.
Depends on whose urine.
Yeah. No, I don't know about that.
Or if you already drank
Any urine.
And how thirsty are you?
No.
Just kidding, guys.
So they also believe women treat men badly. Today's women do. Modern women should not sleep around and buy into hookup culture.
Wait, modern women should not?
Modern women, because they believe this is more of a modern woman issue. Like the younger generation of women.
Okay.
Should not sleep around or buy into hookup culture, even though they're willing to use them.
Well, who are these men to tell women what to think?
And they're saying sleep with them, but don't commit to them.
Okay.
But they don't respect women who sleep around in that hookup culture.
Oh, I see. I see.
Okay.
Right.
I'm sorry, but
that kind of makes women are predators.
Well, you know, when you say modern women, I think that's always been that way.
For the younger generation of women?
I just feel like I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now, but I just think any woman, any man that knows that a woman's sleeping around a lot in any generation
It's not that highly
that's
of.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the village bicycle.
But then
Everybody's
again,
taking a ride.
what makes it right that you're sleeping around and then you're going to judge a woman for doing that?
That's the double standard. You're right. And
You know?
I look at it more from their own health, their own emotional health and physical health.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
a
like
lot.
it either.
There's a lot in that.
But that's the father in me, and that's the husband of a wife. I have women in my life I care about deeply. So when I hear about this hookup culture, it's like, don't do that. It really.
Well, it's destructive, very destructive.
It is. It is. It's a good way to put it. Women will always be looking for a better man, and they'll waste your time. So they'll waste your time with you until they see a better man, then they'll move on to that guy.
I think that's in now times.
Yeah, I think it does happen. It does happen, yeah.
But I think more so in now times.
Yeah, in fairness.
Yeah.
Women today lack loyalty and cannot be trusted. I don't know about that. I think...
I don't have that experience.
I always find women very loyal when you earn it, and they'll always outlove a man. So I never saw that I never saw that side of women. But
whoever wrote this is speaking from their personal bitterness.
Probably.
yeah,
They've had some experience that they don't know how to label it, so all they do is distill it down to some rules to follow in life.
What I would say to that is what you just said previously. Well, you touched on several things, but I'll say it like this: yes, with a certain kind of woman.
Yeah, there are bad people out there on both sides of the aisle.
I'm going on 56 years old. I'm married, and I can tell you that from my experience, even from back in the 80s, most women, I want to say, and I'm not out single dating or nothing now. I don't know what's going on. I hear a lot of stuff, but I don't experience it. But from my experience, most women are good women, trustworthy women. They're honest women.
I think they have honorable attributes, and I highly respect them. Yeah, so I don't see that one either. But so then we broke into the question last episode was, well, there's two type of men who buy into this. One, selfish men, and the other one is men who have been deeply wounded. And that's where we left off on the conversation. We're acknowledging some women have done men wrong and crushed them.
But then again, man, vice versa. I mean,
and it's probably more men hurting women, actually, I think. But I don't know if there's a statistic out on that. But I see men being more harmful to women in a lot of different ways than women to men.
Well, there's so many ways to analyze this stand, because if a guy is egocentric enough, narcissistic enough, where he thinks that this woman doesn't want me, there's got to be something totally wrong with her.
And her kind.
Yeah, and her kind, and all women are that way.
Well, it's just
you
like
can't see your flaws at all.
It's like when a woman has either been through something or growing up, she got the short end of the stick with parenting, and so now she doesn't really trust men or like men. But she knows that in order for her to be a woman, she's got to have a family.
Yeah.
So she's going to try to do the best she can.
Right.
But you have to think about it, too. Men have this experience. Women run off with their best friend.
Sure.
I'm not saying it's common. It probably happens more with men to women than women to men. But it does happen.
And man, it sure hits the press, too, amongst all your friends.
Oh, yeah.
If that happens, everybody knoes it that's a part of your community.
Torpedoes your whole life and your heart. And some guys are so out there, their hearts are on the line, they're giving themselves all, and they get crushed like this. You brought this up last week, Christian, that we have to acknowledge them. And to ignore that part of the pain isn't a fair evaluation of the problem. Some men have a legitimate angst and gripe. Yeah. Imagine you're with a woman, you pour your life into her, you have kids, she cheats on you, and now she just torpedoes your whole financial life in the courts that are slanted against you.
And I think from what I think I heard before is California is the only state that does what they do with the court child support, child care, because there's other states that don't.
I hear it's everywhere, but I don't know. I only know from California.
And I can't remember what states. I was curious about those laws because I went through a custody battle in a previous marriage, and I was able to get 65% custody
in California.
But I had to get an attorney that would fight, and when you're in court telling the judge, I don't want to leave my kids. I want my kids. I want to be a part of and they're still telling you no. Yeah. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm willing to pay. I'm willing to, no. Well, why not?
Like an uphill battle for you?
Yeah. And I went through hoops to be able to do that. And I did do that. But then they looked at my background. I had no criminal background. I owned a business. I was doing well. It helped me that I didn't have a criminal background. Right. I didn't have like any DUIs or anything like that because they checked everything. And I think that's what helped me. But the minute you have like a ton of parking tickets in the past, they use that against you.
Yeah.
They're responsible.
Crazy. And the thing is, if you have a woman that is pressing every advantage
that's the other thing,
to screw you over, how are you not going to conclude that there's something wrong with all of womanhood?
Yeah.
But here's the other side of the coin. I'm not saying this is you all, Frank, because I know there's a lot of good men out there doing the right thing for the right reason. But there's also another class of men who fight for the kids because they don't want to pay child support.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's conniving as well.
And then the women are crying because they're not giving them a bath. They're not taking care of the kids properly.
Yeah.
And they have to suffer through that. And
it's a tough thing.
It's very complicated. But see, MGTOW tries to boil this all down to a formula and a way of life.
There is no formula.
And they base this whole life around
it's way easier to say, all right, let me sign up on that, rather than have to sort out all the incredible complexities of my own personal life.
Right. And you know what? Because of this that we're getting into with these things, I'm just going to say this. Because of this, guys, man, marriage isn't bad. And don't not get married, but really be smart about that move when you're going to make it. And the girl and the sex thing and all that kind of stuff. Because it all ties into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Tim, you said it really well, Chris. You said, a woman's beauty will fade, then you're just left with her stuff.
Yeah, I remember you said that. That made me like, huh?
It makes you think the quality of her character and her heart is so important. And we're visual, and we're guilty of making bad decisions because she's so beautiful.
Well, you know what I've learned through the years of my Christianity? I've learned that men, the first thing is the look of the woman. That's the first thing, and that should be the last thing.
It's what gets us.
And I've been married more than once, and I could tell you from the beginning, except for my wife now, but yeah, it was like if I wasn't attracted, I wasn't even gonna give it a chance.
Well, women kind of think that way too, not as much as men. But they sort of think that way too. I've told my daughter, look, give an ugly guy a chance. Because God has taken some of the best things in life and coated them with ugliness. So that fools will run away and only the wise will see through the pain.
And as you mature, and I wish this was the other way around, but as you mature, there's a bunch of jokes out there about, ugly guys, ugly women and stuff like that. But you know what? In all honesty, not with the ugliness of what the jokes are, but in all honesty, the truth is that is the reality is certain women that are not very attractive, certain men that are not very attractive will love you like nobody will ever love you. And it's not because they're ugly and they know they're ugly. It's because it's a different type of individual.
I think the route in life was different because attractive people have they're treated better.
Yeah, if they look good, they can be lazy.
Yeah, they get away with
if you don't look so great, you got to work on other things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
go on.
Okay. So we talked about, the two different types of men. There's a selfish man who will buy into this just because he's purely selfish. And then there's men who come through this because they're hurt. So the question is this a healthy message for men?
It's dicey.
Well, I'm not going to say that in its entirety that's going to be like, this is no. No.
Okay. So here's the part that I'd like to bring up into the story, and it's a comparison, and it really hit me hard. So let me share it and see what you guys think. John Calhoun, he is an American scientist. He was a researcher, a behavioral researcher, who would research. And
nerd geek. Right.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
and he would do researches on mass populations, and so he started doing experiments with mice, and he created a thing, and they gave it the nickname Mousetopia. So here's what he did. He created a mouse environment that had plenty of room, plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of bedding material, and plenty of nesting boxes. So
I know this.
yes. And he started with 4 pairs of mice. So he started with 8 mice. And he puts them into this Mousetopia. They don't have to worry about nothing anymore. All is taken care of for them. So he started with 4 pairs. Within 1 year, the population grew to 620 mice.
Yeah.
Right?
No TVs, apparently. Right?
I was going to say, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Well, let me say this, but plenty of food, plenty of water.
Happy mice.
There, you know.
Yeah.
So the population eventually rose to 3,840.
Yeah.
Okay, over a 2-year period of time. But on day 315, he started observing problems. The mice started mating less. So he saw this boom of mice mating. Then as time was moving on, they started to slow down their mating habits. Yeah, I know.
Is it because they're all cousins?
I don't know. So he saw the population growth slow down, and then he saw abrupt changes in male and female behavior of the mice, which is interesting to me. It says the males and the females stopped breeding. The females started to abandon their babies.
Wow.
Male mice started to mate with what was ever around them, both male and female.
What?
Yep. Some mice started isolating themselves and removed them from the colony. What's interesting about that is this. Well, I'll get into this. So these mice started staying away from the rest of the mice, started staying more recluse. And Calhoun called these mice the beautiful ones.
Male or female?
Male. The reason he called them the beautiful ones is because they just slept and groomed themselves.
Yeah.
They lost interest in the social bounds of the community. They checked out. Their coats were beautiful. That's where they got the name the beautiful ones due to their constant grooming. And they didn't engage in society, so they had no battle scars. They stopped mating. So here's my point. I believe this MGTOW movement, this represents that movement. We've gotten very comfortable in society. We don't think so. We think life's hard, but the truth of the matter is we are in an extremely wealthy country.
So we're in a kind of an environment that has a lot of food, a lot of availability.
Everything's there.
A lot of everything.
Soft.
But what happened to this population?
Well, check it. Okay, so let me read what Calhoun writes, though. He says, their spirit has died the first death. They're no longer capable of executing more complex behaviors, capable with species survival. The species in such a setting will die. That was his evaluation. Sure enough, within 2 years, the entire colony died.
Wow.
2 years. I have to say this. I saw parallels, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, MGTOW are the beautiful ones. Very focused on themselves, checking out, and I love, it's interesting how he stated it, but they were unable of executing more complex behaviors compatible with species survival. Talk about complex behaviors, interfacing with women, marrying, family dynamics.
They stopped caring and they stopped struggling to learn how to do.
They
these
checked
things.
out.
And so they lost all those skills.
They checked out. Yeah. So I would sit here and I would say this. Our lives are very soft today. And I think because of that, we're experiencing a version of this. I'm not saying mice and men are interchangeable, not at all. But there's something to be learned here. No. You know? God has a calling on men's lives to be providers, to be protectors. Think about these things carefully, though. To be providers, short end of the stick. To be protectors, guess what? A dog comes growling and ready to bite something, you jump in front of your wife and children. That's the short end of the stick. Live sacrificial lives, short end of the stick, for our families and for our communities. We're called to take the short end of the stick. It's not manhood's not a macho thing of, oh, look, I'm big and I tell my wife what to do and my kids better listen. Really, that's not it. It's about the sacrificial living of our life.
So, on that, I forgot where, but I actually read that.
You really are?
Yeah, and I was blown away by it a while ago. And then I was watching something that kind of had that, they were talking about kind of like that, and they were saying that what's happening is because women now are fighting for men's positions, and our men are getting more sensitive, our men are being pushed aside easily. They don't stand up to a woman, meaning not that they beat her or treat her bad, but they're kind of are like, okay, I'll move out of the way. And women now are wanting to take that stand, which they cannot do so because they're not designed to. But women now are fighting to be where the men were. And we have a generation of very sensitive boys that they can't fight back.
So this is like societal pressure.
So mentally,
pressuring women more into men's roles and pressuring men more into women's roles.
So what happens is, outside of the transforming to opposite sex or just a man-woman, all those things are coming from the manipulation that our new sensitive generation has, where they don't have what we used to say, the cojones to stand as a man, and not in an egotistical way, but like you said, like jump in front of the train and save my wife, even if I get taken. There is those kind of men, they're not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Or the kind of man that is going to come home and blisters in his hands, and that makes you proud because you're working hard. No, it hurts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now what women are saying, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But they don't have the ability to. They're not mentally wired to take. So what women are saying is, oh, society is saying that we can't do what men do. That's why we get less pay. No, it's not society. It's the fact that you're not wired to do what a man does.
Okay, now I'm just listening to you, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, because I'm hearing people listening to what you just said and says, where does he come off? He's just this macho guy that's stuck in a stereotypical form. It doesn't understand that men and women can evolve in any number of different directions
together.
Why would we be stuck on just one format?
But they can do this together. I'm not saying women cannot accomplish things. They can. Women can be lawyers. Women can have high positions, run companies. They can. Women are smart. They are. But as men are designed, God gave us a partner, because we can't do this alone. Well, the same thing is for a woman. A woman God gave us to be there for our women and our children. So it doesn't mean, hey, you're weak, you're not, no, it doesn't mean that. It means there's a divine formula to being able to work together on earth. Together, though. There's no woman, I don't care how buff she is, because she worked out, and I've seen these women that are just buff. It's not about muscle. It isn't about muscle. It's internal. It's a design that eventually she's going to fall apart in that position that she's in. Why? Because it's designed for a man's mind and a man's heart to endure.
I think a woman's weaknesses are a man's strength, and a man's weaknesses are a woman's strength. But I can't say 100%.
No.
But you know what proves it out? Because this is a tough pill for people to swallow or to hear. But what really shows proof in it is, look how incarceration goes up when there's no father in the home.
Yeah.
Look at how premature pregnancies happen when there's no father in the home. The statistics jump off the charts when you take the man out of the house. Yeah. The man isn't everything. He needs his wife. We know that. We all know that from our wives. But what I'm trying to say is a man's role is crucial. And as men have been being plucked out of this, because we're chastised. Even like a lot of what you're saying, a lot of people would criticize what you're saying, but I hear your heart. I'm going to give you a story. I'm a little embarrassed to say it because of what I said, but my daughter got a flat tire on the way to work. So she calls me. She's upset. She's new job, trying not to be late. So I'd pick her up, drive her to work, and I go, and now the way driving her to work, she's all, I don't even know what to do if I get a flat tire. She goes, what do you do, Dad? I said, you call your husband. Right? It just came out. But see, in my heart and mind, if there's a young woman out there whose tire's flat, she's not going to be on that busy boulevard changing a tire with this little dinky little jack they give you with a car. I'm going to do that. See that. So I meant it from a sacrificial standpoint. Could she do it? Of course she could do it.
Yeah, she can.
But I'm going to take that role. I'm going to be that for her.
Of course,
but I will get challenged for that.
Yeah, the problem is when a guy says, I'm not taking my marching orders from the invisible man in the sky, that you guys believe in.
Yeah.
If you don't take that form, then you're writing your own form.
Well, that's the problem.
We don't have a discussion, really.
Then you're just a mouse in the environment.
And then we're going to talk. We're going to get into another topic where it's a tough one. But I was going to say this because you said something earlier. They're going to look at me like I'm just like this, or I think you said macho, egotistical, whatever. Let me bring it home. I've been a guinea pig in my life. And I tell you, alcoholic father, wonderful mother, loving mother. Okay. I've been jacked up because my father failed. He failed. I love my dad. My dad already passed. I love my dad. We made our peace. But because my father loved the bottle more than he loved his son, and I was the only son, I went through heck, winging it, failing in marriage. My parents never divorced. My father was very verbally abusive. If it wasn't because I had my mother at home all the time, I could say my dad has a lot of positive things. Hard worker, college graduate. We lived above and beyond. We never lacked. He was awesome that way. But I would have much rather been broke and have my dad helping me to feel strong, secure, and giving me advice. And he knew the Lord. Mm-hmm. I believe, okay, we all say when we walk with the Lord and we allow the Lord to come into our lives, we say, well, this was my journey. But somewhere in there, I believe that not entirely. I think there was a plan for my dad to be a father to his son, so his son can even go further, and not have to go through so much pain and hurt other people, other women, children. Because I was married before with children, the house broke up, my kids. It's another story. My kids don't talk to me. They're men already. The mother's struggling now because she's never found a man again. I've seen the evidence of a man not being there. Yeah. I've lived that part in my life where I didn't have the dad that was like, attaboy, son, it's okay if you mess up. Get up, let's try it again. I didn't have that. Right. I fell and I'm looking around, and if my mom was there, she'd pick me up as she could. If not, I got to get up myself.
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm not talking from being a macho, egotistical, I'm half Hispanic, half Italian, the two roughest types of personalities you can have. Took me a while to understand I got to get off my high horse. Why? I'm not going to say I put it on my dad. I was so angry that I didn't get that love from my father that I thought I needed to be this badass to prove to women that I was capable, which instead I was crushing women.
That's funny. You were trying to do the right thing, though.
I was trying to do the right thing in my perspective, but I was crushing women.
But that's why we're sitting in these three chairs right now today.
So I just want to say
we're talking to guys out there that don't have that dad.
I just want to say that because no, it doesn't come from pride or macho or none of that. It comes from hurt. It comes from lack. It comes from seeing my mother as a woman who never failed us, not even my drunk dad, even though my dad financially didn't fail us, but lovingly all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now, what is God? Love. What does he have that everybody lacks? Patience.
Yeah.
Does he get angry at you when you do something wrong? Well, he could just, boom, disappear, but he doesn't. He picks you up and says, come here, son. Yeah. Let's do this again. You can do it.
There's a form revealed in
there.
There
is.
And I think that's, this issue breaks, in my mind, in two places. The life that this person is describing by being a part of this MGTOW culture is joining the men that see themselves as hunter-gatherers in this life, where we're nomadic, we come in like Vikings, we take what it is we want, we harvest whatever's available. We harvest all we want, we pack up, we go on and look for greener pastures somewhere else. The other paradigm is to be a farmer, a cultivator. And I think this is where I see the Lord showing by example from what he does. He's not a predator. He's a cultivator. He cultivates us. He puts me in my marriage where I'm looking at my brethren harvesting everything she has for me and thinking that I deserve it. And as soon as I'm filled up or it runs dry, you kick them to the curb and you move on. Instead, I look at her as a farm that I need to tend. I need to water. I need to weed. I need to care for ultimately I need to make it thrive. That's why I'm on the scene, is to make my family thrive.
And it's not because you don't think your wife can do anything. It's not because of that. It's
No.
because you love her.
Exactly. It's like I want her to thrive to the point where she's 10 times bigger than me.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a win in my book.
And I firmly believe, I've always said this, women will always outlove men. If we give 110%, you're going to get 200 back. It may not be in the way you want it, because what does a man want? Oh, I want more sex. I want, all the selfish things.
Right.
She's going to give you love back by raising your children right, by taking care of your household right, and you're going to get it back. They'll always outlove you. So it's funny, even if you play this right and you live the sacrificial life, you still win. You win with your kids, you win with your children's children, your grandchildren, and your wife. But it is a sacrificial way of living. You got to see it that way.
It is,
and you got to enter it that way. It's noble.
It's a puzzle to be solved.
You know what?
A woman is a puzzle. If you solve her, she will produce fruit of every kind. Even the ones that you wish showed up a whole lot more. If you know how to cultivate and you know how to care and you have some patience, like a good farmer would have, eventually you can get everything you need. A full rounded life.
I wonder if you guys will agree with me on this as well. And girls,
10% of our listeners are women, actually.
Well, for the girls, for the young girls, for the women, I want to share something with you, and it's this. I'm 6'5". Right now I'm at 255, 58 pounds.
I'm not telling my weight for nothing.
I've always been told that I'm intimidating. I'm a contractor.
You're a big dude. Yeah,
I have guys working under me, but you know what? I never push my weight around, but I'm always told that I'm intimidating, and I always wonder why. I guess my size, I don't know, but this is what I want to say is we do have this little boy inside of us, and when it comes to my marriage and my wife, it's this. This is how my little boy in me shines, is understand something that's very special about us men is there's nothing more important than you guys just tell us that you're so proud of us. Thank you for what you're doing. You know what? You don't have to. I know that we need to tell you guys we love you a lot, and I've learned that. And it's not because you're insecure, it's because that's how you're designed. My wife says we all have a love language, and some of it is touch, others is telling them, reassuring them. And I used to think, love language, what the heck is that? I don't have that. But I learned that I do. And my love language is approval from my wife. I want her, when she tells me I love you, I'm like, I love you too, honey. But when she tells me, thank you for what you've done, I'm proud of you, oh my God.
I'm proud of you. That's the key.
I'm like, dude.
Men crave respect.
Yeah.
The way women crave affection.
Yes.
And if we spin off respect to them, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So I did a great job doing the dish. So what does that mean? You want me to do dishes every night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't get, they like respect, but it doesn't energize them the way covering them with your wings and giving affection and giving love. And at the same time, she needs to see that this is what we want more than anything. I want your approval, but your respect.
Yeah.
That you're my man. I know that I'm safe in the shadow of your wings.
And what I wanted to say with that, you're right. And what I wanted to say with that is this. This is why I'm seeing that things are missing. A modern woman doesn't know, hasn't been taught, because either the father's gone or I don't know what it is, but I think the majority of it is the father's been gone. She doesn't know how to love and appreciate her man. And the modern boy is afraid to give that side of him. So instead, he gives it to himself. Why? Because he's pretty sure that he'll appreciate himself more than anybody else.
Right.
I think it goes a step further, too. There's a whole conference on this subject. It's called Love and Respect, highly recommended to couples. But there's another thing, too. Women will break us down.
Yeah.
And they won't even mean to. Like, I'll give you an example. My wife loves looking at new houses. Loves it. Like, so if there's a new track of homes, we're going to be in those little 5 show homes they do. And she's going to be saying how beautiful it is. And the truth of the matter is, all I'm hearing is, man, you failed us, Rick.
Yeah.
You killed yourself working, and that little tiny house isn't enough. So women don't. And in her mind, she's thinking about the kids. She's thinking about my happiness. There's not a mean bone in her body over it. but women will break men down more than they realize.
Yeah.
The whole basis of the conference is exactly what you guys were saying. It's saying a woman needs love and a man needs respect. And he gave an example of this. He said, it's unthinkable for a woman if a man told her, I respect you, but I don't love you. That's crushing to a woman.
Yeah.
But it turns around with a man. A woman, if a woman told a man, I love you, but I don't respect you, that's crushing for men.
And oddly enough, if she said, I don't love you at all, but I respect you for what you do, doesn't that feel like a
hold on
ball?
to it.
It would be, well, I can work on the level.
Yeah, it's like, I'll take it.
I could be more lovable. Exactly. But it's called love and respect. Look it up. Go take your wife to it. Take your girlfriend to
Well,
it.
look,
It's
I got a
what we're
wife
doing.
just like yours. She subscribes to that magazine, Better Homes Than Yours.
I call it things you failed at.
And all she does,
You
not all
guys
she does, but quite often I come home and she's watching women's porn. That's all those fix-it-up shows, home improvement stuff, people fixing stuff. And I'm thinking, why are you watching all that stuff? I got to get Frank to come out here and swing a hammer, not me.
And see, you guys are saying that probably thinking that, well, it's a great thing, Frank, that I can never paint a wall the right color.
Oh, no, really?
I can never make the house big enough. Oh. Because it's like, don't you think we need to do this now? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, we just did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's kind of like, because you know how to do it, it's okay if you have to do it 20 times.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, what? Then you don't love me.
Right.
And there's no intention to break you down there. There really is, although that's what's happening. See, marriage is complex and it's hard.
See, this is why MGTOW presents a young boy, says, come into this closed globe environment.
Yeah.
You don't need anything outside of this little enclosure. You can love yourself. You can please yourself. You can take care of yourself, enrich yourself.
Yeah.
And women are only there for you to occasionally open a little porthole, reach out, grab the fruit, take what you want, then close it up again so you don't get contaminated with their needs and their desperation. And you can go through life like that in this closed terrarium and never need anybody.
You're never going to change my mind about this. I love the Lord. If I was designed to work alone, to live alone, to do alone, to be happy alone, I could do it. But that's not what I'm designed to be or do or think or see or say.
Right.
I'm designed out of my own rib. There's a woman because I need that woman, not for hugs, not just to tell me that she's proud of me, but there's a balance with your children. There's a balance with your work. There's a balance with your home. There's a balance. The man and the woman are called together. It's not the man, leave your wife in the back and she's going to do what you tell her to do and you're going to do. No, it's together.
Yeah.
And a lot of men say, they get it wrong. They say, yeah, behind every man, there's a good woman. I said, nah, bro, you got it wrong. It's beside every man. Even to that, it's beside. It's not behind. It's not in front. It's beside.
She's the one that makes what you can do relevant.
Yeah.
I remember the moment when I was a young man and I didn't have a label for it, but I was living that MGTOW type of life, basically completely self-contained. I didn't date. I didn't waste any money on women. I just worked on my business, made my own money. My equity was going up. I owned a house. And I remember going to bed. In my bedroom, I had a single bed right against the window, nice little room. And I laid in that room and I just looked at the four walls around me. And something came over me like, what is the point? What is the point? I'm victorious on all these levels. And there's no reason for it.
For what?
And if at that moment I realize, if this isn't meant, if I'm not amassing all this weaponry and all this ammo and all this ability and equity, if not to pour it into the need of a family. And my pastor, I took my pastor out and I bent his ear talking about what is happening with me. I'm going crazy. I'm not happy in my own skin now. You and I've got every reason to be full of joy. And he told me, he says, you know what happened, Lawler? You came too close to adult responsibility, like the zoo, like the gorilla exhibit in the zoo. You leaned over and you fell in. And now you're in the gorilla exhibit and there's no way out except to learn that you were made for a responsibility. You're made to have that load on your back because you're able to carry it and you have the means to bless somebody. to bless a family of your own. And there was no way to get over that fence and get back to where I was at that moment.
Yeah.
I realized I had to just go forward, and that began the whole adventure of me becoming connected with a woman, having a family, and all the complexities that came after that.
I was single for 6 years after I got divorced. I was single for 6 years until I got married again. And those 6 years, when the divorce happened and everything was devastating, but after that, after healing from that, I thought, ooh, awesome, clean slate. I'm not going to make these mistakes again. I'm not going to get married. I did what you were saying. I became very successful. I had money in the bank. I had the car that I wanted. I was going out to dinner. I was going out to hang out at places where people get together alone. At first, it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, I'm having dinner at a nice place alone.
Yeah.
I'm driving in this really nice car on a Sunday where I can go wherever I want. I would not go anywhere because I'm thinking, well, where am I going to go? Alone.
Exactly.
I would go shop for some shoes and stuff like that, and I get this high of like the tennis shoe or the shoe, and then when I walked out of the store, it's like, okay, where am I going to wear these to?
Yeah.
So I started like this void, and I was like, oh, man, I don't want to date. I don't want to go through that. You know,
Yeah.
What is the point? And like you, until then I started praying and saying, Lord, I know that it's in your time, but I want a wife. I don't want a girlfriend.
Right.
I want a family.
Put me back in, Coach.
And then about 2 years after that, in the church that I was at, is where I met my wife now. And the Lord spoke, and I'll tell you guys something, and I won't go into this too long, but I'll tell you this. Here I am thinking, all right, I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to be smart because, you know, my wife before was trouble and blah, 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 right? I'm going to make sure that I really watch who I'm going to marry. I married the most broken woman I could ever marry. And I was like, and then I went through that thing about like, oh my God, what did I do? But then through the Lord, through my journey with the Lord this is meant to be this way.
Yeah.
Because now I know that I'm the only man that can love that woman.
Right.
Had I known that before, I don't think I would have failed in
And
our
her
marriage.
need reached in and called something out of you that you had no idea was in you.
And it's not easy.
And it made your whole manhood explode out of this hard shell.
I've become things that I couldn't have became
Yeah.
if I didn't marry her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about good things. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about bad things.
Yeah.
And I've seen things in myself, and I've learned to know who I am through this marriage. It's not my wife. It's what God did to put us together because he knew that our best would come out because
Right.
of this marriage.
Right.
And so it's hard work, guys. It is. But women, I mean, we're all broken. I don't think there's bad people. I think there's broken people. And yeah, it would help if you had a pillar in your life or someone that's been through some things that can talk to you. Like you said, a lot of you guys can't talk to your dad. I've been there. It's unfortunate. But now going through what I went through, I think we need to look, and we talked about it in another episode before. I can't remember when it was. But find that person that can speak into your life, a pastor, or I don't know, an older guy that's still married and went through things and he's successful in his marriage. You know, I don't know. I mean,
Who sits at your table?
Ask us questions.
That's right.
You got a comment line right there on
Yeah.
YouTube. Put in a question if you want. You know, ask for give your information if you dare.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to contact you,
Yeah.
and we'll have that heart-to-heart
Yeah.
conversation with
Yeah.
you.
There's an email on the channel, and I think it's within there. There's an email, Hey Dad podcast email,
And you can
Shoot-
ask us
shoot it to
three,
the-
or you choose your favorite,
Yeah.
or whoever you feel comfortable with. Doesn't matter.
Choose me.
But you know, it's funny though. See that's well. Let me say two things that you're speaking to. I love this about God. If you come from brokenness, and you got cheated out of the gates. I mean, you didn't get that right road and took you. What I love about coming to God is you come to God with all this brokenness. Just imagine all this glass just shattered. And that was your father leaving the house. That was your mother doing whatever sad things. You come to God with all that brokenness and God will rebuild you.
Yeah.
And that brokenness, if you ever looked at a kaleidoscope, when you put broken glass in there, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
God rebuilds you.
Yeah.
And here's something that I truly believe. You appreciate life more. You enjoy the moments better
Yeah.
when you
Right.
come from that after God's healing. I don't think God it says hates divorce. He didn't want any parent to divorce. He didn't want any father to leave the home. He
Yeah.
didn't want any mother to leave the home. It happens. but he'll rebuild that.
Yeah.
But when you come into that, my biggest fear about this whole MGTOW movement is these young guys are going to listen to it, and they're going to use women, and they're going to miss out on some beautiful things in life, because when you're married, one is you're living out your purpose in life. God has you here for a purpose. And living a purposeless life is sad. But you're serving your purpose in life. And so you're going to get so many benefits back from that. Your life is better when you live it out the way God tells you to live it out. We talk about the sacrifice part, and that's very much there. But the blessings back, you can't measure them. You look at a man who was single his whole life versus a man who invested in his children and his wife. Man, he has a farm with just bumping crops, versus being alone.
And all the complexities that come along with it.
Yeah.
But the complexities are what put the facets on your beauty.
Yeah.
They make you into something far beyond what you could design. See, here's a vision. This guy writes this MGTOW stuff, and he's setting a vision before men. And saying, and the vision is indulge your selfishness. You're meant to be selfish. There's nobody that can take care of you like you can.
Yeah.
So take care of number one. And here's the techniques of how to do it and how to manage women and how to get the things you want to get without getting wrapped up in unnecessary detail, so that you can charge through your life, through your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, until you're an old man and never have anybody depend upon you at all. You're all by yourself. I want to paint another vision. You submit yourself to the complexities of loving people around you, allowing your strength to matter to somebody else besides yourself, to bear their burdens, to give yourself to this complexity. You would become a superhero against that context of those selfish men. If they line up 100 of these men, and all these guys are the beautiful ones, and they're wearing the best clothes, driving the best cars, and there's that one guy that's in the middle that is caring for a family, that is bearing the burden, that is doing what has to be done so that his tribe can thrive, that man will stand tall.
Yes.
He's a superhero within the context of this life.
Exactly.
And we need guys like that. Join that brotherhood.
Join this brotherhood, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
I told you when I hit my 40s, you go through kind of a way of looking at my life and so forth. So, and at that time, I went to 3 funerals, all older men, 80s and 90s who passed. And I counted the words that they spoke about their careers. And between all 3 funerals, I'm trying to get this right, I believe there was only like 7 words total spoken about their careers. Everyone else getting up saying things, we're talking about what a beautiful uncle they were, what a wonderful father they were. It's funny, I didn't think about counting at the time, but not one talked about any of their cars, how much money they left in the bank, what they owned.
Yeah.
That stuff don't matter. It really does. I'm totally with you, Chris. Join this fraternity, join this club, join this. You will find your purpose in God. But here's the thing too. I want to read again Calhoun's statement because it's sad. This is talking about the beautiful ones, these mice who checked out. I'm going to call them MGTOW, this mouse colony. It says here, their spirit has died. The first death. They are no longer capable of executing more complex behaviors compatible with species survival. The species in such settings die. Society needs these young men.
Yeah.
They need you. Society. It's not just, it's your wife, it's your children, it's your neighbors, it's your city, it's your county, it's your state, it's your country. Society needs us men to step up and do the right thing and be men. And what's the old battle cry? Do good and stand up against evil. And as corny or as ever you want to say it, that's our calling in life. And we are to be that stabilizer. I saw, this is a horrible thing to even talk about. I was watching this thing on this program doing research for future material for the show, but they're talking about human trafficking. And these guys sway, I'm talking about in America, it happens different ways in different places, but they sway these young girls into a lifestyle. And they'll take them from city to city, state to state, prostituting them out of hotels. And that's a big movement. That's a huge thing. And one of the guys, we'll call him the pimp, I hate that word, but one of these pimps said, I can never do this with a girl who had a good father in her home. He goes, it takes a certain kind of girl. I know how to, and they're extreme manipulators. They're
guys are
true
wolves,
predators,
man.
true predators. And they read this. Society needs men. It needs men to stand up for the right reason. These selfish, beautiful ones will not cut it. It will not preserve our society, and society's going to start breaking down. So that's the encouragement I say. Out of all the truths and half-truths that are in their statements that may resonate with you, society needs you. And not just that. You need the purposeful life of that following God's way in society will give you.
Yeah.
So that's my heartfelt. That's what I would tell any young man who hears this call, is enticed by it. Man, wake up, you know.
Yeah,
So,
think it through.
yeah, think it through. Guys, any closing thoughts?
I have two that may be corny. One of them is, a pastor of mine told me this. He said, coming to Christ will be the hardest thing you'll ever do. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But it's not the hardest thing you'll ever do because it's actually hard for you to do. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do because you're going to have to face the man in the mirror. And you're going to have to really look at yourself, and it's all about you and Christ and what he designed you for. And it's really hard, especially the older guys. It's really, born again means obviously not going back to the woman's womb and then coming back out. What it means is you got to let go of the old man and let the new man rise. And what that means for me, what it was for me is I had to look in the mirror. And I mean, guys, I looked in the mirror to comb my hair and stuff like that, but I never took me serious. When I started looking in the mirror and not looking at my hair, I took me serious and didn't like what I saw. Who has if I've created that in the mirror, that reflection, who's there to help me look at myself in a different way?
Yeah.
I went to the world. I never became a drug addict, but I tried some things. At a young age, I had sex, money, cars, friends, DJing, all that stuff. None of that stuff fixed that until I came to Christ. Because Christ gave me the purpose. He didn't give me the purpose. He showed me what my purpose was. And he was able to get deep down and uproot everything that was put in there that I was told I was supposed to live by. So yes, it'll be the hardest thing that you'll ever do because you got to face yourself and really want what you're designed to be. And that's one thing. The other thing is corny because it was told to me, and at first I thought it was corny, but it's really true, is you got to hang around with eagles, not turkeys, man.
Yeah.
You hang around with turkeys, you're going to become a turkey. What happened to turkeys, man? They get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just for the good of somebody eating them. So, but what happens to eagles? They're untouchable. They're untouchable. They're strong. They soar. They're respected. It's an amazing animal. So,
Yeah, but it's funny that you say that though, because if you watch this guy Andrew Tate, he comes off as the most confident, the handsomest, brave. He'll present as an eagle, but the truth of the matter is he's as big of a coward as they come.
He's a turkey.
So you need a little discretion, man. Be careful.
Yeah.
But you're so right. Surround yourself with the right people, man. Do not surround yourself with people who you'd like to become.
Yeah. And then take everything we're saying, go somewhere private, and lay before God and say, God, what do you think?
Yeah.
Think about him.
Yeah.
If God was a MGTOW, okay, he would be looking out for number one.
Yeah,
and
of
he would
course.
have all the means to do it. He made everything. There is nothing that is denied to him. But yet what he chose to do was allow himself to become vulnerable to the most complicated thing that he ever made. And the thing that was almost as powerful as he was, because it was made right in his own image.
Yeah.
And he's giving himself on a daily basis to deal with the complications of being connected with us.
Yes.
Amen.
That's who we follow.
That's right.
Chris, you want to close us in a prayer?
Yes.
Especially for those young men who this is enticing or it makes you think.
Yes, God, you're the maker of all things. You're the way maker, and you have wisdom, Lord. You are wisdom.
Yeah.
Father, I just pray that as all these hucksters, these sideshow hucksters that appear in every man's life, trying to talk them into coming into this sideshow, come in and see this. Here, I've got what you want. Trying to sell everything and anything under the sun to put a man off the trail that is righteous, that is holy, that you would give discernment. You would reveal things for what they are. You would blow the skirt up on every stupid idea that comes out of a man's pie hole and show it for really what it is.
Yes.
And inflame the courage in every young man who is wondering, who is sitting at the path, who hasn't done much yet, or maybe what they've done they're not proud of yet. That you would inflame the courage to step up and connect with God in the privacy of their own home, in their own thoughts, where nobody can see.
Yes.
And strike that deal and say, Lord Jesus, come into my life and take me. Take me. I want to be a warrior in your clan.
Yes, Lord.
In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Right on, guys. Thank you. And we'll see y'all next week. Take care.